Hey everyone, welcome back. Tonight we're heading to Kyoto, Japan for a story that has been whispered about in the old tea houses of Gion for over a century. It's the kind of tale that doesn't live in guidebooks or tourist blogs, passed instead from one generation to the next, its details shifting like mist over the Kamo River. They call her the Aka Kimono no Onna, the woman in the red kimono. Some say she's the spirit of a jilted bride, forever walking the lantern-lit streets of Gion on rainy nights. Others believe she's a river ghost, luring strangers into the water to replace the life stolen from her. But whether you believe in old Kyoto superstitions or not, after hearing what happened to one visiting photographer, you might think twice about following anyone in red after dark. Chapter 1. A quiet evening in Gion. The rain came softly, a thin veil drifting down over Kyoto's Gion district, turning the lantern-lit streets into rivers of gold and crimson. The photographer moved slowly, his camera cradled against his chest, each step bringing the scent of damp earth and the faint sweetness of incense spilling from a nearby shrine. Wooden machiya houses lined the narrow street, their latticed windows glowing warmly against the cool night air. Silk curtains swayed gently behind half-open doorways, and from somewhere deep in the maze of alleys came the muffled pluck of a shamisen, the melody threading through the steady patter of rain. Tourists had long since vanished, leaving the old district hushed, its cobblestones slick beneath the photographer's shoes. He paused beneath a paper lantern painted with the crest of a tea house, adjusting his lens. That's when he noticed her. Just ahead, moving with an unhurried grace, was a woman in a red kimono. The color was startling, rich, almost glowing against the subdued tones of the street, its folds patterned with delicate golden cranes in flight. She held a lacquered parasol above her head, tilting it just enough to hide her face. Something about her pace caught him. She wasn't rushing to escape the rain, nor pausing to take in the sights. She walked as though the street belonged to her alone, every step measured, deliberate. He raised his camera, framing the curve of her shoulder, the gentle sway of the parasol. But when he blinked, she was gone. The street stretched empty before him, rain falling in the same steady rhythm. The air felt cooler now, a stray draft brushing the back of his neck. Somewhere, faint but distinct, came the sound of a single footstep echoing on wet stone, yet no one was there. Chapter 2. The First Strange Glimpse. He lingered in the heart of Gion, the rain easing into a fine mist that clung to his hair and camera lens. The glow of paper lanterns haloed in the damp air, their soft light catching on the rain-slick cobblestones. Somewhere nearby, the faint chime of wind bells mingled with the smell of roasting chestnuts from a street vendor packing up for the night. He paused to frame a shot. An old tea house, framed by a wooden gate, its Norin curtain swaying gently as if stirred by an unseen hand. Adjusting his focus, he scanned the viewfinder for a perfect balance of light and shadow. And there she was. The woman in the red kimono stood in the frame, further down the street than before. Her parasol tilted at the same angle, face still hidden, the crimson fabric bright against the muted browns of the machiya walls. No sound of footsteps reached him, yet her form seemed sharp and real, as though the lens brought her closer. But when he lowered the camera to look directly, she was gone. The street stretched empty, lantern lights spilling across polished stone, rainwater running in silver threads toward the gutter. A faint unease prickled the back of his neck. He glanced behind him. Nothing. Yet the air felt heavier, as if the district itself had drawn in a quiet breath. He wiped the lens, telling himself the appearance was a trick of light, a passerby he'd missed. But when he raised the camera again, the woman was there once more, closer now, her kimono's crane patterns shimmering faintly as if caught in a private breeze. His finger froze above the shutter. She hadn't taken a single step, yet the distance between them had closed. Chapter 3. The Unveiling in the Alley. The drizzle thickened again, each drop tapping against the lacquered wood of the macchia eaves. He followed the narrow lane as it bent away from the main street, deeper into Gion's quieter veins, where the light from the tea houses didn't quite reach. Here, the air smelled of damp cedar and old tatami mats, as if the walls themselves had been drinking in centuries of rain. Ahead, the woman in the red kimono glided without hurry. The crimson silk seemed to drink in what little light the paper lanterns cast, the golden cranes embroidered along its hem shimmering faintly as she moved. Her parasol, now slick with rain, tilted just enough for him to see the curve of her jaw, but her eyes remained hidden. The alley was barely wide enough for two people to pass. Wooden sliding doors lined one side, their paper panels yellowed with age. From somewhere behind them, a single wind chime rang, a high, brittle sound that seemed too close for comfort. She stopped. Slowly, she turned to face him. Her skin was unnaturally pale, the shade of untouched porcelain. Her lips were painted in a perfect crimson bow, but her eyes, they were two deep wells of black, without light, without reflection. The rain seemed to pause around them, the sound swallowed by the space between their breaths. A gust of cold air swept down the alley, carrying the unmistakable scent of river water, algae, silt, and something faintly metallic. The silk of her kimono stirred without wind, and her figure began to fade, the red dissolving into mist that curled around his legs. At his feet, a single sleeve drifted down, weightless. Before he could touch it, it too vanished, leaving only the sound of water trickling somewhere unseen. Chapter 4. The Whisper in the Tea House. He stumbled back toward the main street, his breath ragged, rain dripping from his hair onto the cold strap of his camera. The bright lanterns of the Gion tea houses came into view, their warm glow spilling onto the wet cobblestones like pools of molten gold. His legs carried him to the first open door he saw. A Noren curtain dyed indigo with a white plum blossom crest swayed in the damp wind. Inside, the tea house was dim and fragrant, the air rich with the scent of roasted matcha and faint sandalwood incense. The soft tatami underfoot muffled his steps as a middle-aged woman in a crisp indigo kimono approached, bowing slightly. Her face, serene and welcoming at first, shifted subtly as she took in his pale, unsettled expression. He was seated on a zabuton cushion by a low lacquered table. Steam curled up from the cup she set before him, the green tea's bitterness cutting through the metallic taste still lingering in his mouth. When he tried to describe the woman in the alley, the red kimono, the cranes, the black eyes, the tea mistress froze, her hands tightening briefly on the tray. "You must never follow her," she said in a low, deliberate voice, her Kyoto dialect carrying the weight of something old and unbroken. "They say she waits on rainy nights, leading the living to the Kamo River. Those who follow do not return." The sound of rain on the roof suddenly felt louder. Somewhere deeper in the tea house, a shamisen plucked a slow, mournful note. He tried to laugh it off, but her eyes did not waver. She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice to a whisper. It is not the first time she has been seen tonight. Chapter 5. The Legend of the River Bride. The tea mistress poured another cup, the tea's steam curling between them like pale smoke. Her voice lowered as if even the rain beyond the sliding shoji screens might be listening. 100 years ago, she began, there was a bride from a wealthy merchant family. On the morning of her wedding, her groom vanished. Some say he fled with another woman, others that he drowned in the Kamo River on his way to her. She paused, eyes distant. When they told her, she did not cry. She walked to the riverbank in her red wedding kimono, the color of life and celebration. Witnesses saw her standing there, parasol in hand. Then stepping into the water, the river swallowed her without a sound. The rain outside seemed to grow heavier, drumming against the roof tiles. The scent of damp tatami mingled with the faint aroma of wet cedar drifting through a small open window. They say, the woman continued, her spirit returns on nights like this, when the rain veils the city, when the lanterns shimmer on the streets. She looks for those who walk alone, drawing them toward the water. Some claim she takes them out of jealousy, others because she must replace the life stolen from her. The photographer gripped his teacup, the ceramic warm against his cold hands. The faint sound of rushing water filled his ears, though no river was near. "If you see her again," the tea mistress said, "do not meet her eyes, do not follow, and whatever you do—" Her words were cut short by a sudden gust of wind that rattled the paper shoji. From the alley outside came the soft, deliberate tap of Gita sandals on wet stone, growing closer. So, was she just a strange passerby in traditional dress? A trick of the light and rain in Kyoto's narrow alleys? Or was the tea mistress right, that the woman in the red kimono still walks Gion on wet nights, her black eyes fixed on the next soul to lead to the river? In Japanese folklore, red is the color of celebration and life, but also of blood and sacrifice. The belief in ubume, female spirits who died in sorrow, runs deep here, and many locals will tell you that if you see one, you must never meet her gaze, because if you do, you may find yourself following her steps without knowing why, until the sound of rushing water is the last thing you ever hear.